Good morning, children. Hope all of you are fine. So, today we are going to start a new topic, and this is one of the important topics in your biology for your board exam. So, before starting the chapter, I would like all of you to open your running notes. And running notes is mandatory. Please follow this instruction and make a list of important points. So coming to this chapter, heredity and evolution, today we are going to see the basic concepts in heredity, and so I will be discussing few definitions and few terminologies regarding the chapter. So please concentrate on this properly. Without proper terminology in this chapter, it would be really difficult for you to understand the topics. Alright, so coming to the chapter, in today's class especially we are going to see the concepts in heredity. So before starting the chapter, I would like to give you some basic points involved in this chapter. I'll ask you a few questions. What would it be like if you have four arms, or if you have wings instead of arms, or imagine you people having a single eye. So, you know octopus, right? So, you know that octopus is having 8 arms, and fish have gills to breathe, and we humans breathe through our nostrils, and plants, you all know that, they have stomata. I would like to raise few questions, why are we human-like and not plant-like, or even bread mold-like? So, the ultimate answer for these questions will be discussed in today's chapter. And you all know that humans give birth to humans, animals to animals, and plants produce plants. So here you should understand a simple concept that the characters, the order in the design of organisms belonging to different species is common. Yes or no? So every organism has its own order. See, we human beings have a particular body design, and so this is followed by generations. Even animals have a particular body design, and that is followed by their generation. So here there is an absolute order to the design of organisms belonging to different species. So, I've raised a few questions. So what might be the reason for the above questions? I told you what would happen if you have 4 arms like an animal, or instead of arms if you have wings, what is the case? Or if you have a single eye, what is the case? So the answer is the formation of the particular body design of an organism is based on instructions given by a biomolecule. And so the biomolecule is nothing but DNA, who is the hero of our today's concept. So what is this DNA? DNA is the term that is known to you since your childhood. Yes or no? So here DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. So what is a deoxyribonucleic acid? Where is it present? So I think you people know nucleus, right? So in the nucleus you have thread-like structures, called the chromosomes, and this chromosomes possess a tightly packed material inside that, and that is called as DNA. Okay, so DNA is usually present in the chromosome, and chromosome which is present in the nucleus of any cell, like a plant cell or an animal cell. So here this DNA deoxyribonucleic acid, it is a specialized characteristic feature to the living organism. So without which there is no living organism. So please note down DNA. It is deoxyribonucleic acid. And here, so like we are going to get few terms in this DNA. So here, the first one, like coming to the introduction in this heredity, first one is a recognizable feature of a human being or any other organism, like height, complexion, shape of nose and chin, color of eye and hair, etc. are the characters or traits. So this terminology is repeated throughout the chapter, so please concentrate on this. So without a proper grip on this terminology, you will not be able to understand the concept. So here, trait or a character, it is nothing but a recognizable feature. Okay, so the known feature, the visible feature of a human being or any organism, any other living organism. So for example, you say height, complexion, shape of nose, chin, color of eye and hair, etc. So these are called as characters or traits. Okay, so please note down this traits, TRAITS. And next term is heredity. So what is this heredity? So the transmission of traits from the parents to their offspring is called as heredity. So I told you what are traits. So they are nothing but the visible features of living organism. So the transmission of these traits from the parents to their offspring, it is called as heredity. And next, the heredity information is present in the gametes of the parents. So here, like, what is this heredity information and what is the meaning of gametes? So here, hereditary information, it is nothing but information that is passed on to generations. Okay, from, see, for example, if I'm considering myself as an own example, like, see, my father's genetic material is present in me and my genetic material is present in my children. Okay, so this goes on. This is nothing but hereditary information that passes on. And what are these gametes in the sense? These are reproductive cells. Okay, so here you have generally two types of gametes, that is a male gamete and the other one is a female gamete. So male gamete is the sperm cell and the female gamete is nothing but egg cell, or you call it as ova. Okay, so all these are basic concepts. And here and the next one is, thus gametes constitute the link between one generation and the next and pass on maternal and paternal characters or traits to the offspring. And so here I told you, like, gametes are the reproductive cells, right? So these are the ones which are passing from one generation to the other generation. So here when I say reproductive cells, so these are the ones which carry the genetic material. So these constitute as a link between one generation to the next and pass on the maternal and paternal characters or traits to the offspring. So here maternal or paternal in the sense of parental characteristics. Okay, maternal you say mother's characteristics, and paternal it is called, you can say, father's characteristics. And that is a major concept that is involved in this chapter. So you have learned what is a trait and what is heredity, and a few more important terms like I told you already, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, and Here particularly you have one more term that is called as gene. Okay, so gene is a basic unit of heredity and is a segment of DNA. Okay, so usually I told you like chromosome is like it is tightly packed, and that is nothing but DNA is present inside the chromosome, and within the DNA you have genes, you have small segments. Okay, so in those segments are nothing but gene, which is a basic unit of heredity, and they are the one who carry information and is a segment of DNA. So I will show you what it is. You have a structure in the next slide. And coming to like one more point, that is the study of heredity. Okay, and variations. I'll tell you what variations are. And variations is called as genetics. Okay, genetics, it is nothing but the science of study of heredity. It is called as genetics. So here next important concept in your heredity is variation. So what are these variations? So by the term you can say variations are the differences. So the differences in the characters among the individuals of a species, and that is called as variation. Okay, so I will tell you like there are many kinds of variations in human species. Like when I am taking an example of human, so some humans are having free earlobes and attached earlobes, and the next one you can say different complexions like dark color, light brown, dusky, wheatish and fair, etc. Different eye color, you have brown, hazel, blue, green, grey, amber eye colors, height tall or short, chin cleft or pointed, hair color black, brown, blonde, red, golden, etc. Hair type curly, wavy, straight, etc. Nose snub, pin pointed, etc. So these are the various kinds of variations that are seen in human beings. So here like before starting this concept variations, you know that apart from similarities in the same species, there are also noticeable variations. Yes or no? So here you know that no two human beings except identical twins are exactly alike. So even identical twins may vary in certain aspects. Sometimes you can see changes in identical twins also, but mostly you'll be seeing identical twins are almost similar. So why this is happening is, you know that DNA is highly conserved. So highly conserved in the sense, see for example, like a particular character, or you can say, see like when they are solving these murder cases and all, they they try to extract the DNA out of the sample, and they like usually compare the things and they'll find out the victim, right? So how they're doing is, the DNA contains the genetic material of the forefathers. Okay, so some certain particular like you say certain material is highly conserved. That means that material, particular material which is conserved, is transmitted exactly after every generation. Okay, so that material is called as highly conserved material. So the material which is unaltered, which is the same throughout generations. Okay, so that is called as conserved DNA. So since the information in the DNA is highly conserved, it gets altered from time to time due to various reasons. I'll tell you what are the reasons. So here, this alteration in DNA brings about the variation in organisms belonging to the same species. Okay, so there are some variations which there can be it can be of any reason. The variations can be of any reasons. I'll tell you in the next slides. As you comments in this chapter, I'll tell you what are the reasons for these variations. And so this is why variations occur, or variation takes place in the organisms belonging to the same species. Okay, so that is the reason why there are many kinds of variations, especially in humans. Okay, even though we are belonging to the same species, we have like a certain variation. So it is due to alteration of DNA. So These are certain examples, like you can see in the left first picture, attached earlobes. So attached is nothing but the ear is just connected to your cheek part, and detached earlobes which is separated. So usually you can check your earlobes whether you have attached earlobes or detached earlobes. So if you observe that, like your forefathers or somebody like from your family will have this sort of earlobes. And coming to blonde hair, so you can see it is usually seen in what do you say, like it is usually blonde hair is usually seen in other countries. Okay, so you have brown hair. We Indians have either brown hair or black hair. So here you can see hazel eye color, and here are like certain examples of variations. And next is a blue eye color. So these are certain variations present in human beings. And next, coming to, see, you can see a group of children, like all of them belong to the same species, but their facial features are different, right? So it is due to variations. And even here you can see the birds, though they belong to same species, you can see the color and all got changed. Even here the bugs, you can see the color got changed. Even the dogs here, even the leaves. Okay, all of the leaves are of like same plant, but their size, the shape is different. Even grapes. Okay, so this is nothing but variation. So these are some of the examples for variation. Hope you understood the concept. So next, coming to, I told you like why these variations usually occur. I just gave you a hint. So here in this accumulation of variations, I am going to tell you in detail what is actually happening. Okay, so here you can see like before starting that, I told you like DNA is present in the chromosome, right? So you can see this is the helical structure of DNA, left picture. Okay, so the right picture is nothing but a single unit, that is a chromosome. Okay, within that chromosome DNA is present. So full coil is completely packed with this chromosome which is present in the right side. Okay, so here like coming to accumulation of variations. So here when organisms reproduce, the offspring show minor variations due to inaccuracies in DNA copying. These variations are less in asexual reproduction and more in sexual reproduction. So here before starting this, I would like to tell you what is asexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So here in asexual reproduction is this kind of reproduction where it involves a single parent. Okay, in sexual reproduction it involves two parents, that is father and mother, or you can say a male and a female. And here like, so here like my question is, why do variations occur in the organisms of the same species? So I gave you an answer. It is due to alteration in the highly conserved DNA. So coming to like a detailed explanation of this concept, you know that whenever a cell divides, okay, so this is actually the concept that is dealt in your lower class. So please try to memorize the thing and try to analyze the concept. So here whenever a cell divides, the DNA first makes a copy of itself so that each of the DNA can be passed on to the two daughter nuclei. And at sometimes during DNA copying an error might occur. So this error, so a mechanism, there is certain mechanism which is not there in your, which is not necessary actually. This will be dealt to you in your higher classes. So here there is a mechanism which makes it possible for the DNA copy to be proofread. So this proofread, I will tell you in short what is this proofread. So proofread, it is nothing but a mechanism which involves certain enzymes, okay, in order to check the sequence of the genes present in the DNA. Okay, usually like in the DNA structure, usually it is made up of bases. So those bases are actually paired up. So here when the DNA is getting copied, I told you proofread. So there are certain enzymes which are involved in checking the pairing of this bases. So if there is any error in the proofreading, and that time there will be an alteration or variation in the DNA. Okay, it is due to improper proofreading process. Okay, so the enzyme involved in the proofreading process is actually DNA polymerase, which is not present in your book. If you want that, you can make a note of this. So DNA polymerase is the one which is involved in proofreading. So however, if the error is not removed during the proofreading, so I told you, like, usually like enzymes are involved in proofreading process. See, if that enzyme finds any error in pairing, like in the pairs, so that time, if that enzyme is not correcting the sequence, so there causes an error. That is what I am telling you. Please listen carefully. So there causes an error, and obviously the resulting DNA type, which is different. So the resulting DNA would be different from the original one. Okay. So remember, if the proofreading is not done properly, or if the enzyme is not correcting the error in the sequence, that time what happens is the DNA that is produced, okay, the duplicate of the DNA will be different from the original one, and so errors in the DNA copying mechanism are one of the main reasons for variation in the genetic material. Hope you understood the concept. Okay, so that is one cause. So if there is so the first cause is errors in proofreading, and the second cause is sexual reproduction. So what is this sexual reproduction? I told you, like, here actually two parents are involved, right? So here when two parents are involved, that means that half genetic material is transferred from mother and half genetic material is that is transmitted from the father. So here two different individuals are involved. So each individual have their own set of variations. See, for example, like mother is having certain set of variations and father is having certain set of variations. So what is happening? Both combine together to give a offspring, and both the characters or both the variations get transmitted through the DNA into the offspring. Okay, so this can be one of the reason for variation. And the third reason is mutations. So what is this mutations? So mutation, it is nothing but actually a permanent change in the in the chemical nature or physical nature of DNA. That is called as mutation. So here mutations can be brought about by like certain radiations like X-rays, gamma rays, etc. that can damage the DNA permanently. So these radiations, which are very harmful, can damage the DNA structure and thereby cause mutations. And one more reason is nicotine. So you know that a component that is present in tobacco, nicotine, also cause mutations. So usually, like when a lady is pregnant or something, usually doctors suggest her to not to take tobacco or not to smoke. It is due to the component nicotine, which might affect the DNA of the baby and might cause mutation in the baby's DNA. So that is the reason why they ask to skip off. So that is the thing. And next is yes, one more thing is, here mutations are also heritable changes. Okay, so mutations, and if there is a mutation in the DNA, it will immediately pass on to the offspring. Okay, so that is about the reasons for variation. So remember, the first one is error in proofreading, and the second was sexual reproduction, and the third reason is mutation, which is caused by certain radiations like X-rays, gamma rays, etc. So these are the reasons for variations. So here, I told you, you might get a doubt how these variations are getting transferred. So I told you previously. So when since we are talking about sexual reproduction, so here few variations present in the mother and few variations present in the father. Since both the genetic material is equally shared in the offspring, the particular variations which are highly conserved get transmitted to the baby also. Even the baby, apart from inheriting the variations present in father and mother, it also develops certain new variations, okay, due to the errors in proofreading or due to certain reasons mutations and all. So the offspring also have variations that is generated within himself or herself, and the variations which are acquired from both the parents. So in this way, variations tend to accumulate and pass on to more and more individuals with each generation. So this is the concept of accumulation of variations during reproduction. So coming to importance of variations. So here some variations are useful and some might not be useful. See, so some variations are useful variations and they help the organism to adjust to the changes in the environment. Some variations do not help the organism to adjust to the changes in the environment and they may die and become extinct. So here commonly you can say sometimes the variations can be a bless. Okay, so they can be like a blessing and sometimes they can be like a curse to an organism, because all the organisms might not have the tendency to adapt themselves in the environment with the variation. See, for example, we take a strain of bacteria. If the parent strain of bacteria is able to live in cold condition, okay, if it is suddenly kept in the hot climate instead of putting that in a cold atmosphere, what will happen to that bacteria? So obviously the bacteria gets killed. If the bacteria is producing its offspring and this bacteria this offspring which is produced develops a certain variations which is able to adapt itself even in the hot environment also along with the cold environment. So here I told you the previous bacteria is unable to survive in the cold weather if it is adapted in the hot weather. But here the second bacteria, that is the offspring of the previous bacteria, is able to survive both in cold and hot conditions. It is due to the variations. Okay, so this is how sometimes the variations can be useful and sometimes it can be a curse to an organism. So sometimes the organism might not be able to adapt itself to the environment. And here the significance of a variation shows up only if it continues to be inherited by the offspring for several generations. So here the significance, or you can say the importance of a variation can be shown if it continues to be inherited. Okay, so if the organism is able to adapt itself in that with that variation, so it is seen clearly that it survives. Okay, it is the characteristic is transmitted throughout the generation, and this shows that there is a particular importance for that variation. If the species won't be able to survive, so obviously that shows that there are some variations which do not help the organism to adjust in that particular environment. So by this you can conclude whether it is a blessing, or you say whether it is a cursing, by just transmission of the characters from one generation to the other generation. And here The great advantage of a variation to a species is that increases the chances of its survival in a changing environment. So here I told you, like I gave you an example of bacteria, particular strain of a bacteria. So like a bacteria, when it is able to live in the cold condition and it is unable to live in the hot condition. So here this bacteria, when it is giving rise to an offspring which is able to live in both hot and cold climates, it is purely due to the variation. So here by this small example you can say that it increases the chance of its survival in a changing environment. So if the bacteria, even if that offspring is also like able to survive only in its cold climate like that of the parent, it would be hard for that particular offspring to get survived. If the conditions are not favorable to that, it will obviously die. And so due to this variations, what is happening is it is able to get the parental character. Apart from that, it is getting a new variation in its body, and that is the reason why it is able to like live in both the conditions, like the parent in cold condition and by itself in the hot condition also. So that is how variations get accumulated in a living organism. So these are the basics, like basic concepts involved in your heredity concept. So please try to put your book aside and refer both the things so that you will understand the things in a better way. So please concentrate on the thing. So after reading the concept thoroughly itself, you will be able to understand the next concept. Please be ready with the next concept in the next class. So meet you in the next class again. A worksheet will be given to you. Please solve that. Thank you.